Virginia International Raceway, one of the true gems, and today it plays host to the second race of the weekend, but the fourth round of the 2020 TC America Championship, as all three divisions, TCR, TCA, and TC cars, race together here on this beautiful 3¼ miles of Virginia real estate. Hi, everybody. I'm Greg Creamer, joined by Calvin Fish, Ryan Marine, down in pit lane for us here, and we are getting ready to go. Biggest field of the weekend, 34 cars with all three classes combined. And yesterday, Cal, in the race, we saw great racing in every category.
We really did, and we saw some last lap fireworks as well with a change for the lead in the TCI class and some changes for the podium positions in TC as well, so expect the same today. You got to have your eyes wide open here because anything can happen. 34 cars, you said. It's a wonderful mix. These TCR cars are beautifully suited to this racetrack in terms of those high-speed corners up through the S's. They just absolutely can keep it planted through there. What a performance yesterday by Olivia Askew on her debut here. Just put in a tremendous performance with a top 5 run from the tail end of the field after technical issues in qualifying. Look for some great things from her today.
Yeah, without a doubt, and a great lap before he had a problem with a flat tire. Victor Gonzalez put in a lap time that puts him on the front row with his DXDT, same type of car, but a different team. Scott Smithson, who's just been impressive from the off here. Tristan Herbert, very impressively in that team, New German Racing, in their first appearance in the pro ranks here with SRO, get a podium. And CJ Moses was very racy early and then started to have some problems, and it was two different things. I'm sure that Ryan will give us an update on that at some point, but it took him out of it. Johan Schwartz got the win, but Chandler Hull laid down a lap, Cal. That was spectacular.
Yeah, brilliant pole position. So as he starts to get used to this GT4 machinery, he's really finding that learning curve pretty easy for him. Already at the sharp end of the field, so look for his teammate James Clay to come from the third row. A lot of work to do.
Absolutely. Chandler, last year, this was his first pro podium in front row start, and now he makes it his first pole. There you see that beautiful Nissan, the Bossman Products entry of Federo. Had a big win at Coda's, a little off the pace for where we expected him to be here. Tom Capizzi, a good top 5 yesterday, and that Capizzi home improvement out of Technic BMW. Steve Strymer racing for Hard Motorsports here. That was the car that Sean Webster was on his roof with at Sonoma last year. They had to go to that car, which has been rebuilt and the like and everything, but he said he just hadn't had any development on it. And for Steve, it was a little bit of a strange beast as we take a look at Ruben Iglesias, who was running as a teammate this year with Victor Gonzalez, but running in the TC category in the Honda Civic Type R. And then you take a look at the TCA field, and another guy ended up third in the race yesterday, but had a great lap as it unfolded for Copeland Motorsports in the Hyundai Veloster Turbo. Tyler Gonzalez sits on the pole in that category with a really strong qualifying run during the race.
Yeah, and I think he may have something for the minis here today, Greg. I mean, starting from the pole, he certainly got the track position to start with, and if he can have some good clean laps early, the minis may lose their first race of this championship season.
Yeah, absolutely, and we saw a look there at Kevin Boehm in the number 9. That is the Boehm Racing AWS CrowdStrike Honda Civic. Expected him to be very quick yesterday. He had a good qualifying run, but he ended up, they had some massive problems with overheating during the race. They think they've solved that, and I think that car should be really good here if they've solved that issue. So we'll be able to see what he's able to do. And then a couple of the Tech Sport guys here at the back of the field. We know they're quick and will come up after a couple problems and incidents. But 40 minutes of racing for this round 4. All the classes out, 2 pace laps as they follow the Acura NSX, the official safety vehicle, around this absolutely stunning racetrack. And we had some pretty heavy rain overnight, but Cal, we've had a number of classes that have already been out before this. You think this track's getting back to where it probably was for them? Yeah,
it should be rubbered in nicely by now with the events that we've had here this morning. So the track should be good. Temperatures are starting to ramp up here, as you would expect. Low 80s, we expect 90 here by this afternoon. So still a pretty sweet spot in the day for getting true performance out of the race car. But you got to be careful with that wet grass. You said pretty severe storm came through here and was pretty much throwing stuff around in the paddock that wasn't tied down last night, we heard. So if you get off on the grass, you're going to go for a bit of a ride.
This track is one that always demands precision, because even if that grass is dry, it's still slipperier than the racetrack, and you don't want to drop tires. But if it's damp at all, that is an even bigger concern. And I've often thought this is like driving a high-speed street course at times, because you don't want to get off the edge of the track. In street course, it's walls. Here it's grass with no grip, so it makes for some interesting racing. And you've got dynamics here as well. You know, the TC cars, the front end of that field is very close in time to the back end of the TCR field, and the drivers at the front of TC are aggressive, and if they're close, that could play into a little bit of strategy. And then the instructions were from TC back to TCA. They really wanted the field to observe some intense social distancing. Some 200 feet they wanted that margin to be here to make sure that there was no overlap and no problems here. And this TC field, I mean, last lap pass for the lead, amazing stuff. And we expect a lot more of that, especially, Ryan, if some of the guys with problems yesterday had them solved.
Yeah, that's definitely the hope. You mentioned Kevin Bohm and his team. Just a few more details on that. They ultimately determined that the problem with the overheating situation was that the fans in the radiator weren't functioning. So he had to do some pretty nifty driving just to keep the airflow to that car and keep it nice and cool. And maybe that meant sometimes backing off when he would like to attack. Still was able to get a decent result, but this is a guy who won a SCCA Runoffs National Championship on this track last year. So like you said earlier, we expect him to be fast, and with that problem rectified, we hope he'll be able to charge him through the field. Chandler Hull is another interesting story. He starts on the TC pole, and this is a guy who finished third in this championship last year, driving for Copart Bimmer World Racing. Had a massive program in place over in Europe, in addition to this touring car program that all got tabled until next year due to the global pandemic. He was going to run at GT4 Europe. He was going to run at NLS, which used to be known as VLN. All of those things now on the side, and really doubling down on his North American racing activities. In addition to driving in the TC class, he'll be racing in the GT4 Sprint X as well. So just a couple of names to keep an eye on, and Chandler Hull starting on pole. Not exactly the year he thought he was going to have, but at least something to be pretty excited about here before we get started on race 2.
I would say so. And Ryan, I think another driver that we can watch for some fireworks from is CJ Moses. This is a track he knows well. A lot of laps here, and in the race yesterday, he was very competitive, and then suddenly started to drop back. Had a couple of weird issues. One, he had a burst intercooler hose that really robbed the car of some power, but he had an electrical scenario that had the car, I think, doing random upshifts and downshifts and the like, so they think they've sorted it.
Yeah, I mean, they hope they've sorted it. So it's great to find those issues last night. The crew had to work hard to do so, but you can seriously see physical evidence of damage with the wiring harness around the steering wheel itself, and then that cut on the intercooler. So, yeah, I think he'll be in much better shape. He knows this racetrack very well. Was running at the sharp end yesterday, but got a bit of work to do coming towards the back end of the field.
And really happy, and he was with the performance too, that we saw Tristan Herbert put in for New German Performance, again a podium in their first race. This is his home track. He's figured he's got over 1,000 laps here, so he's pretty comfortable here. But the DSG machinery for TCR have now been with a very active 9-month-long BOP program, and I think they're close. Obviously, he got the podium, but in terms of lap speed, that wasn't quite what the sequential cars are, but it's incredibly close. You still have to tweak things a little bit, but nice to have that category of car back in the field.
Yeah, I think it's important for the growth of the championship that they get the DSG cars up to the same speed of the sequential machine, so it's a much lighter car this year, and they've worked on the power curve as well. It's got a little bit more power than the sequential machine, so certainly Tristan yesterday put in a great performance to come back and put it on the podium. Was a great run for him.
His first race, actually, in a while as well. The Acura NSX, the official safety vehicle, you can see accelerating away. The field now under the control of Victor Gonzalez in the FIA-Bruce Motorsports Tolson 2's VGMC racing machine. That white and yellow Honda Civic Type R TCR car on the inside. And we are ready to go racing. Round 4. This is 40 minutes of competition. You can see the TC cars queued up a little closer in the back, and then the TCA guys laying back a ways. When the green flag flies, it's got to be for each group, but for your group, when it goes, you can pass, and we're green. TCA and Gonzalez doing a nice job. Smith's in there. Question's going to be just how racy does Maxon get heading down into this first turn.
Max is not used to not leading, so he's in unknown territory right now in this class. Tucks it to the inside, gets inside Smithson. I think he's going to move up to the second position as Gonzalez continues to lead.
Smithson wanted to fight it a little bit, but then decided, no, maybe not just yet. But look at Roy Block. Roy has certainly got some speed. He snuck around Luke Rumberg and has moved up now into that 4th spot. And Maxson did get through on Smithson and is immediately attacking on Gonzalez.
Yeah, he looked for a way through there in the entry to turn 4, but he's got a long race ahead of him. If he's got an advantage, don't be impatient. Don't throw it all away. He's got the championship lead. Got a great run going with 3 consecutive victories. But he's a young racer and he wants to be up front immediately, coming off that TCA championship with Copeland Motorsports in 2019.
You see Alex Papadopoulos had a good start there in the second of the Copeland cars. Olivia Askew dropped back just a little bit from that absolutely stout qualifying effort she put in for 4th in the class. There she is. A bit of attack. It looks like the Rumcastle entry of Rumberg has dropped back a few spots. Started in the 5th spot, but has lost some ground as well.
Chandler Hull has kept that front position from the pole. As we see the jockeying around Madison Avenue here as everyone's starting to pick up the draft, and it looks like Maxson may have gone through possibly.
Looks like it, got by and into the lead. There's the number 16 we're talking about of Luke Rumberg.
Side by side with Gonzalez towards the end of the S's. If he made this thing there, that is a brave young man, and he is literally taken off as about an 8-car length lead here in the early going.
That is Rumberg now is mounting his charge. That's a DSG gearbox VW, and he's fought his way back up into not only where he qualified in 5th, but 1 spot better in 4th behind Smithson right now. So that was a good rebound. Then Block sits in 5th. I think that's Papadopoulos now. Yeah, into 6th, and Askew has slipped from 4th to 7th. Herbert, Moses Lima, Johann Schwartz continues to hang on to the lead. Look at this, Smithson going after.
So tight there as you come through turn 2 to 3. It's like that little zig where it zags, and if you get it wrong with your competitors, so easy to get fired off into the grass on the outside there, but just gave each other just enough room as Gonzalez went for that apex.
I'll tell you, Scott Smithson has given club racing drivers a lot to be proud of right here, because this is his first season of pro anything, and he's right up there with some tremendously quick and experienced talent. As we go back here, take a look. There is the 31 of Johann Schwartz. Getting information from him and his PR director and wife Karen before the race. They said he was really mindful. He wants to be mindful of keeping something left on those tires here should there be a late caution. And Cal, you've talked about that so many times. He wants to be in the clean air, keeps the car cooler, but you don't want to burn those tires off. No,
that's for sure, and he's a very savvy racer, certainly extremely quick. Gets the job done coming off a brilliant championship season where he was the man to beat all season long. And a great victory yesterday, and controlled it very nicely. Took off, got that margin, took the pressure off himself. As we suspected, this Hyundai is very much a match for these minis around this race circuit, evidenced by the fastest lap yesterday and the pole for Gonzalez.
Yeah, nice job, and he's up to the challenge here. And for those of you that watched the race yesterday, I am indeed making serious mental notes about the color scheme on Mejia and Pombo's car, as they surprised us with that last lap pass. Look at the lead Maxson's built up already.
Yeah, just dominant. Just the boys on fire. Block late on the brakes down to the inside on Rumberg.
Made it stick with it to the end. Way wide. Look at this.
Certainly got something for Gonzalez here. He's just got to keep his head here. And this is a fighter. Had a nice year last year. A couple of victories for that very small team that's suddenly become a big team in the offseason.
Yeah, during this break, Victor Gonzalez, I talked about yesterday, has started to build a huge following. That's Steve Strymer in the second of the hard motorsports cars. He's just had a fraught weekend here. Problems in his primary car early. Oh, and he thought that Capizzi was going to turn in on him.
Yeah, just got in the dust down very inside there. You don't have a lot of grip, and obviously just straight on. Shouldn't have been any damage to the race car. I don't see anything packed up on the grill. Just look at it anyway. Settle back in. Good to see Steve back though.
Yeah, absolutely. And Olivia Askew there, you see that red car sort of in the middle of the screen. As Smithson takes a look again. Gonzalez covers him very, very cleanly. But for Olivia, this is her debut weekend of pro racing. She's only run 4 events before. She's done a lot of lapping and done a lot of lapping in a Nissan 350Z while her dad, David Askew, has been testing. But she is a world champion mountain freeride skier and is showing that she's got some pretty good speed behind the wheel of a race car as well. And boy, Mejia is really putting the pressure on Gonzalez here. He may have had the pole and is leading, but it's by no means comfortable.
Yeah, the Hyundais looked really strong on the straightaways yesterday. I'm not sure if there were any adjustments overnight or anything, but right now the Mini's hanging with him.
And that third place car is the team car Pombo.
They've basically taken all the wins for JCW so far this championship season. Swept between them at Coda, and then Mejia's late grab of the victory yesterday.
Problem there for the 28 of Ben Bettenhausen. And the Tech Sport entry. Well, look at Max and just flow speed.
Hyundai is just such a strong car, and with this group, just really picked up nicely. Brian Hoyer Autosport brought these cars to this championship and then put it in the customers' hands, and I think Cobra Motorsports are the ideal group to showcase the team.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question of that. And he got associated with them running those MX-5s to great effect in TCA, and they clearly saw something and said, boy, I'd like to get him in something a little bit more speed, and Tyler has adapted beautifully.
This is a tasty little battle of what we're looking at here, and I think Smith definitely has something for Gonzalez here this morning. Let's see if he can put it to bed here. DXDT certainly have increased their ranks. They got the 2-car GT3 machines, and now running a couple of cars in this TCR category as well, as this battle is heating up between Chandler Hull and James Clay.
Teammates for Bimmer World in this one, and Chandler followed James most of the race yesterday and clearly learned something when he laid down that lap late in the race. It's like, thanks, coach.
Yeah.
And popped one in there. But once again, you look at Johann Schwartz here, and best lap of 2:03.2 to Hull's 2:03.6. And Johann just, loves to lead for one. He always has, but I think in this warm weather that certainly helps a little bit. But I just get the feeling that he's driving a little bit more within himself, going with that program that they had talked about making sure he's got tire. He wants to lead, and he's got that little margin, but he may not push it quite as hard early this time.
He's savvy enough. He'll actually be looking in his rearview mirror and looking at the attitude and the language of the cars behind him, and be seeing if they start to slip. If I'm starting to slide a little bit, what are they doing behind me? So he's, like we talked about yesterday, Greg, one of those drivers who could be driving at 10/10 and still have a little bit of brain capacity left to be analyzing the big picture as well at the same time as just driving the wheels off the race car.
Yeah, mental bandwidth. That's crucial if you're going to be really, really good, that's for sure. Want to give a shout out for Chandler. He said, please mention, I got this great new sponsor. It's called TAC Energy, and it's one of the country's largest gasoline wholesalers. And he said, we put together a program, and he said, they're really helping me out this year. And it's always nice to bring a new partner into a championship, so we wanted to honor that for him. So we take a look here at the number 60 of Tomas Mejia. Is, boy, what a battle they're putting in. And wanted to talk here, this car, the number 50, this is also a Copeland Motorsports car. It's Luke Lang, and this weekend, I think, is his second weekend driving cars, period. at the June Sprints, which is a huge SCCA event, second only to the runoffs. He came straight out of karting, was very impressive, and somebody talked to Dean Copeland and said, pay attention to this guy. Dean was watching him, so they put a deal together for him to run the car in the SCCA variant of the class, and Lang went out and won on his debut at the June Sprints. And within, I guess, a half hour of that happening, they penned a deal for the rest of the season.
That's awesome.
Isn't that neat?
Great young talent.
Yeah.
He's doing very well here today, but Gonzalez is really feeling the heat from Mejia right now. Pombo just looked the clean air. It looks like doesn't want to pick up the draft, just wants to get some air to the front end of that Mini. Now flicks to the other side of the road as the two leaders go to the right.
Yeah, sometimes you want to draft, sometimes you don't.
So a lot of teams talk about the heat here yesterday. A little bit cooler than when they ran and raced yesterday afternoon today, but even so, just extreme conditions.
Down the roller coaster, and it's really interesting here. You've got the Gonzalez, who obviously is just a quick young comer. Mejia feels that role as well, and then Pombo, one of the most experienced drivers in the field here, dealing with all of these different scenarios. Oh, is this a problem for Gonzalez? No, sorry about that. That's Maxon working the back of the TCA field, saw that similar color scheme and threw me right off.
Yeah, Max has just laid the hammer down and has taken off in this field here today. His best lap, 57.9. Everyone else running mid-58, so considerable margin. Now he's just got to manage that. Don't drive the tires off in case there's a caution and a reset. I think these are the things that the Copeland Motorsports team will be talking to him about.
Here's Victor Gonzalez in the Thea Blues Motorsports entry. Oh, and here's this battle, and James Clay continues to hound his young teammate, and Toby Grahovic right behind them. That's it, 4 cars battle for the TC lead.
Yeah, Grahovic is right there. Had another strong run here yesterday. And I think it's just a matter of time before Toby hits winner's circle once again.
I tell you almost get the feeling that once he does, he could string a few together, because he's that good. And he did have pole yesterday and ended up second.
He's so consistent. And I think the one thing that I noticed with Toby is he's such a clean racer. When he gets in those moments like Schwartz put that move on him, he just gives him plenty of racing room. And maybe he's just got to get a little bit more aggressive, but he'll get it done. I mean, he's so consistent. He scores points every single weekend, it seems like. Always up in the podium spots. Just needs to take it that one stage further.
And of course, this track is very familiar territory for the Bimmer World team. I mean, I think their shop's, what, 2.5 hours away?
Yeah, very much a home circuit. They used to run that endurance event that finished off their racing scenes on a regular basis with a lot of success. So they test here a lot. Been working really hard on these race cars during the lockdown, just in tweaking on these touring car machines, as well as their GT4 cars that they campaign as well. So a lot of work has been done during this 4 months since we've last seen action at Circuit of the Americas for the Bimmer World team.
Corner worked a couple of those VIR 13-hour races. What fun were they? Start in the daylight, finish in the dark. Big variety of cars out there and some fast stuff at the sharp end of things. Again, everybody just working carefully the TC cars through the TCA machinery. So look at Pombo as he's chasing his young teammate, and Gonzalez up front of them. There's Lang.
Yeah, Lang's not letting this group disappear on him, is he?
No. Built that little bit of a bubble, and then he's just locked in and running very similar times. Seen a good run, too, behind this group by another young man making the switch. Here is Roy Fulmer, the 4th. He started doing motocross racing, Fulmer did, when he was a kid, and moved into go-karts, and at 13 became the youngest racer ever in the Thunder Hill 25 hours when he was 13 years old. He's 19 and is a 6-year veteran of the Thunder Hill 25 hours. It is.
Smithson dropped away a little bit from Gonzalez. Traffic could have played a part in that equation.
Yeah. Looks to me like
Nixon's drawn back to these guys.
I wonder if he really got hung up behind.
Yeah.
You know, you get into that TCA traffic and those S's where you can't get by.
Yes.
You know, and with that, just the speed differential through there, it can cost you. And I think that's exactly that. But he's shown the ability to just go when he needs to.
Well, that's the key in terms of managing those tires. So you do have a moment like that, you've got something left to respond with. But certainly for Gonzalez, it's whetted his appetite and his thirst for the lead right here.
Desperate to sneak through there. I think that's on Boehm, and Gonzalez coming right with him. Yeah, that margin was over 2 seconds. It's 6/10 officially at the line here. And that last lap by Maxon was a 2:01 compared to a 59.2 cal.
Yeah, it's not a good lap for him, and he's got more traffic right in front of him. But not catching this traffic at the opportune time right now is just a rhythm, and it's going the wrong way for him.
That's his teammate as well, the TCA driver we were talking about, Lang, who lets him through. You know, he's hoping that Lang makes it difficult for Gonzalez.
He'd committed, and Lang was just, you can't hit the disappear button. There's just certain parts of this racetrack where it's going to cost you a monstrous amount of time.
One thing we've seen from Victor Gonzalez is that he is absolute magic in managing tires usually.
Well, that's such a key part of being a great driver and getting success, Greg. It's not just about your one-lap speed. It's just thinking about the big picture as you're driving around, just feeling that grip, not abusing it, not driving over what it wants to give to you, just keeping it planted as we see. Traffic situation again. So that's giving Gonzalez, the TCA leader, a bit of a gap on the minis.
It does, and here comes Maxon. He gets through on Gonzalez, and this is huge for Victor. Wanted to get both the minis, couldn't get it done. It's one of the things about multi-class racing at this level. I've always called it high-speed chess.
Risky move there. Did he get through?
Yes.
Yes, he did. That's tight. The minis roll speed, but just the TCR car is going to accelerate a lot better there. Just able to clear here.
Looking back into the TCA group now, as we're seeing Gonzalez and the minis come through as we watch Victor Gonzalez. Behind Lang is Kevin Boehm. And Boehm has gone around Lang, so Lang got caught up in that. When he lost that momentum, Boehm wasn't that far behind him and was able to sneak through on him. And we go back to this scrap in TC.
I love the multi-class racing. It certainly throws a curveball at the race, doesn't it, in terms of dealing with this traffic and concertinas the traffic a little bit.
Well, with all the different classes and the different drive lines and the different this and that, all these pieces, as I said, on this chessboard move a little differently. And you've got to be thinking not just corners sometimes, but almost laps ahead.
Hovick there, very close to James Clay. Got around him late in the going yesterday. It was a great battle all day long. So evenly matched, all of the cars. The BMW is a great little machine. Very much a turnkey program from BMW. Is M240IR Cup machine. So successful. Pretty much dominate the class in terms of the numbers, and certainly has success as well in terms of race victories and championships.
I mean, it's a plug and play, isn't it? And that's one of the things that has really done a great deal for touring car racing now, is that development here. As we're taking a look, moving up, 4th overall, Roy Block in the number 5. Beautiful Alfa Romeo Giulietta.
Yeah, he's having a really nice run here. I think the Alfa's the lightest of the TCR cars in the field, with the Audi DSG just behind it in terms of the weight stakes, but always got a lot of experience with this car now. Done a nice job here today. He'd love to just sneak up and try and catch on at the tail end of those podium runners.
Interesting to see when he comes through, because I think that Smithson maybe lost some time. Yeah, indeed, that last lap, Block went 8/10 faster than Smithson. So, as you said, Kel, that's certainly not out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah, Smithson's had a really rough ride through the traffic, it seems, so he's lost touch with Gonzalez and brought him back into the clutches of Roy Block.
And behind Roy Block right now, we have got an angry little group battling it out in TCR. Rumberg, Herbert, Askew, Moses. Oops, the number 8 is off. I think that is Ruben Iglesias. It was the touring car driver for the Victor Gonzalez Motorsports team. A little damage to that left front corner, Cal.
It just gets in there and the grass is wet, as you can see, just can't get it turned. It's down in Oak Tree. You just try and charge that last corner, turn 11, before the tightening up for Oak Tree, and if you get out wide on the wrong radius, you just can't recover and get it back underneath you. And you're just at an angle where it's impossible really to miss the tire button.
And for Ruben, this is very much a learning curve year, because he's done a lot of racing in the Caribbean, but it's been mostly drag racing. And so for him making the move over here and learning to do road racing and in some pretty refined equipment as well, he said it's a steep learning curve, but he's got a real passion for it. He is now a full-on partner in Thea Bruce Motorsports with Victor, so that's a nice development as we're past the halfway point now. As Maxson, after that little bobble in traffic, Cal, he was able to stretch that margin up a little bit.
Yeah, it seemed once it all cycled through, it pretty much evened itself back out again. Certainly Maxson lost a little bit initially to Gonzalez, but by the time they'd cleared that big group, the gap was up around 2+ seconds once again. But Victor will be enthused by this. He's hanging with, looked like Maxson was just going to take off and disappear into the scenery at one stage in the early going, but Gonzalez has been hanging with him a little bit better, so that will give him hope for the end of this race, and certainly for the race here tomorrow with this triple-header weekend.
Back to this TCA battle. These top 4 cars just running so close. Little bit of a gap at times caused by traffic.
Good for Schwartz here.
Schwartz really getting parked here.
Yeah, let's see what Chandler Hull can do with this run. He's got to run on Johan. Johan's going to have to protect here, heading down towards turn 1. Johan said yesterday, though, that these TC cars don't draft very well, but certainly Chandler Hunt got a little bit of a help there down into the brake zone. Tries to go to the outside. He's got to be careful he doesn't open up the door for his teammate, James Clay. Grahovic's thinking about a position change as well.
Yeah, when it packs up like that, boy, Clay just, the exit of 3 there, he just rolls some speed, doesn't he?
Yeah, and I tell you what, when you're running this close and the track moves around as much as it does here at VIR, you're just doing it all by feel. You sometimes can't see the guy, you can't see him in a side view or rear view mirror, and you're just feeling each other out in terms of knowing where each other's fenders are. Just great racing by some of the best in the business.
So here's a little question for you. James Clay, very talented driver, obviously, in that Port Q and Optima Batteries Bimmer World car. Sitting in 3rd, really quick, in front of him, his customer.
I know. It changes things.
Yeah.
It really does. And it's like when you got a good friend that you're then competing against, changes that dynamic. Teammates, changes the dynamic. Customer, client, team boss, changes it even a step further.
And I know I'm going to hear from somebody. I know it's the P-O-R-Q is pronounced pork. That's the deal, but I'm just pointing that out here, that it's an unusual spelling on it. Boy, did he get a run with Chandler. He almost got a feel if it was anybody else, he'd try throwing it down the inside at some point.
Yeah, James is not afraid to throw it in there and trade a little pain, that's for sure. So I think he's certainly given Chandler plenty of respect here. But Chandler's got the pace. I mean,
Yeah,
I think James would be on the horn and maybe talking to the team. I'm not sure if they talk in between the race cars themselves, but he'll certainly be talking to the pit box in terms of, listen, I got a bit more pace. Let's go chase down Johan. And sometimes you can have an agreement. If you go after him and you're not able to do it, you'll give the position back. Really tight there. Almost opened. Grahovic looks pretty racy as well.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, I think Grahovic may have a bit more pace than the Bimmerwell cars at this stage of the game.
A little bit of dicing has maybe allowed Johan to open things up just a little bit. Meanwhile, Pombo has gone through on Mejia and picked up the second spot now in TCA. See if he's got anything for Gonzalez up front. But I'm looking at the background here, and am I seeing that yet? Is that Kevin Boehm? It is. Isn't it? No, that's one of the TCR
car, I think.
TCR cars.
Yeah.
Yep, that might be Vinny Lima, actually.
Yes, I'm not sure with the JCW mini team whether they've just elected to switch positions and let Pombo have a go at the leader, or whether they just are having their own little battle that Pombo's got the upper hand right now.
As I said, behind these three, Boehm now has picked up that fourth spot in the TCA category class. Yeah, and that's the AWS CrowdStrike card. And what I just wanted to finish one thing about when he won that, Ryan talked about winning the gold medal at the runoffs. It was last year right here at VIR. It was his 4th gold medal in 5 years, which is a remarkable streak. But it was the first sub 2-minute lap ever recorded here in the ST category of car, and it was a very similar car to this one. So he knows it works well. Ooh, that is a battered front end for Ruben Iglesias.
Yeah, it is. It'll be tough to get that back out there today. Yeah, I think for Boehm, he just had those heating issues, as Ryan alluded to. The fans weren't working correct. Oh, side-by-side battle for the lead in TCA. Pombo on the attack and gets it done.
Whew, Gonzalez is going to fight him. Now Gonzalez is going to try and cut back underneath, and he maybe just needed to do that to dissuade Mejia from floating through as well.
I think that was a defensive move as opposed to an offense. Pombo's taken off here.
Yeah, he has.
Gonzalo's just trying to regroup and get back into a rhythm by defending on Mejia. Has cost him a lot of lap time and allowed Mark to just skip away.
Well, I got to go back to this. We talked about it a little bit earlier, the experience of Pombo. Was he just laying back, being super smooth, keeping those Pirellis on that car, and then realized I got more left here than I think those guys do?
Quite possibly. He looked strong. He looked to like you could just see the language in the car that he was able to carve the corners very effectively, and looked like the car was hooked up well. So just oh, he drops a wheel. That was a little mistake there by Mark. Just drops the wheels there, cost him time. This Hyundai is quick down the straightaway. It could give Gonzalez the opportunity to make a move here.
We have a full course yellow that has come out here at the 11-minute 45-second mark. There's a incident on the track, and they immediately have the yellow out here. So
Gonzalez will be frustrated by that, because I think that definitely gave him the opportunity to make a run back at Pombo for the lead.
Yeah, it was an opportunity, wasn't it?
It was.
Bobble for sure. And it's ironic, isn't it? You get this absolutely glorious racetrack with all of the wonderful challenges it throws at it, and probably the most important turn is the tightest, one of the slowest ones on the track because of what it leads on to.
Yep. It really is, and you just got to be so patient through there. You got to keep it clean. And there's always the temptation just roll a little bit more apex speed through 11, then suddenly you find you just can't get the car turned in for Oak Tree. I think Mark had intentions of just taking off and establishing a nice gap, as we see the safety car now at pit exit about to find the overall leaders.
Is that Chandler?
Yeah.
That was Chandler Hull. Oh boy, after putting that car on pole and running such a strong race in that second spot, that's that snake section. You get out of rhythm, you drop a tire there, that's what can happen, isn't it?
Certainly. I didn't quite see how it established itself in terms of whether there was contact between he and James possibly, but yeah, that's not good news. A lot of damage there to that race car to get fixed for tomorrow.
Yeah. before this yellow came out, Gonzalez had reeled Maxon back in and had him at 6/10 before the caution even came out. So I'm not sure. Here it is. Yeah, he just got wide there.
Yeah.
Do you think in that previous corner he just got that curb really hard?
Possibly.
Maybe?
It's hard to tell from the
Yeah.
head-on angle where the Clay had already got the position on him.
So as the field working through, we're going to check in with Ryan.
Yeah, guys, a couple of notes down here from pit lane. Just before the full course yellow, we had a couple of cars spending some time on pit lane. One was Alex Papadopoulos in one of the TCR cars out at the Copeland stable, and he had picked up a lot of debris, which led to an overheating issue, and that may have also contributed to a gear selection issue. But they were able to clean that off. They took a look at some fluid levels and ultimately determined that the car was okay and sent him back out with an update just to keep an eye on the temperature. And also Ruben Iglesias, who you guys talked about having the problem on track, he ultimately did come into pit lane to make some repairs and was just about to leave pit lane when I walked away a few moments ago. So certainly down the order at this point, but ready to rejoin the race.
All right, thanks very much, Ryan. As the EV crews are on hand to help get that car up and out of that area.
A ton of time to work with, so they're going to have to be pretty efficient here for us to see any more green flag action this afternoon.
James Clay, even under caution, he wants to get in Johan's head. I'm not sure who this favors in this scenario. I mean, you know, with Clay now, Johan's not a teammate, let alone a customer, and as we said, he's willing to get after it here a little bit, so we'll see what dynamic that takes. And James certainly comes in here after a good start to the season with a podium.
Well, the good news is if they can get that race car hooked up, you got the little cut through there to the short course, so they may be able to just get on its way and get back to racing here pretty quick.
Does Maxon have tire left? If he was hurting him a little bit, this caution helps.
Just looking at the clock, I'm trying to think. It's probably about a 4-minute pace lap, so they should be able to do this one and one more and still have a little bit of time left on the clock.
Be real intrigued to see here, because if they get that, I think it'd be awfully optimistic for them to get that car off the track and the track cleaned a little bit before they get to the start-finish line for this lap.
Right.
There also is the option in the rule book to tell the pace car to pick it up a little bit.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it works both ways. If you slow the safety car down when it seems like it's done right now, you want to make sure you get back around sometime left on the clock. So
here's a look at Vinny Lima, and great addition to the championship, part of that new German program as a teammate to Tristan Herbert. And as I said, he is a true rookie here. It's his first pro racing start ever. Longtime Audi fan, just a freak for Audis, has done a lot of what they call HPD, which is high performance driving events in Audi Club North America, and last year became an Audi Sport customer, racing customer. The car he's driving he bought and did a lot of work with it and decided, you know what, with this new opportunity for the DSG machines, let's put it together and come out and race, and that's just wonderful.
Yeah, I think it's great to see that team here. I know they just dipping their toe in the water right now in terms of what their full program may be for this championship season, and I think it's also trying to showcase to other Audi owners that the DSG car can be competitive in this class and in this championship this season.
I think that story's told, isn't it, by the fact that one of the other driver of the team, Tristan Herbert, is the managing director of Audi Sport
customer racing.
Racing, so it's
so
like
he's anxious to
exactly.
make it happen.
And boy, did he yesterday with that podium.
Yeah, it's great to see him back. I mean, he was such an avid competitor back in 2009. He made his World Challenge debut, but and and then went the management route, stayed in the game, stayed in motorsports, and has been very successful at representing the Audi brand now for a number of years. Was with Lamborghini for a couple of years just before that.
I remember sitting up in the up at turn 10 at Road Atlanta, announcing him in the American Road Race of Champions in his ITB car when he was a terror in the Mars Championship in that era. So it's great to see what he's been able to put together here. Looks like that incident's cleared.
Yeah. So should have a couple of minutes left on the board.
Yeah.
Get by, so it'll be a 2-lap shootout probably.
Yeah. See if that pace car looks. Maxon's up behind it going, come on. That's the, I think that's the 28 of Bettenhausen. That's in between Gonzalez and Smithson. And there is a provision where they would have all of the TCR cars move around any lap traffic, but I think there's also a provision if there's a, if it's under a certain time frame left in the race, they would forgo that just to get the race going again too. So we'll see what they decide to do with it. There's that battle for the TCA lead. Those 3 cars right behind them, I think, is Johann Schwartz, leader in TC, so that's going to get interesting.
Yeah, just looking at the clock, I think it'll be 2 laps, Greg.
You can do it, huh?
Yeah. You basically need 2 minutes plus. Fast lap for Gonzalez is a 1:57.
Oh, good point. Yeah. All right. Lights are still on the safety car, though.
That's a problem.
Yes. We'll have to see what happens.
Yeah, because I'm not sure there's enough time for the safety car to skip around and beat the clock for a...
Yeah, I would agree. And I haven't seen if the safety car stays out, so looks like this one's going to finish under caution. That's a shame. There it is. They've thrown the checker a lap early. It's a shame. Looked like they were really close to getting that incident cleaned up. But
yeah, there were some fascinating little battles that were going to reignite there. So very disappointing to see that happen. We were within a couple of minutes, I think, of getting the track cleaned up and ready to go. But that's racing. Good news is there's another one to enjoy tomorrow.
That's a very good point. So Maxon hangs on for yet another win. Gonzalez rebounds from the incident with the tire yesterday to second here. It was a cut tire from an off. Smithson continues his impressive performance with third. Roy Block, this is the kind of speed we knew he was capable of and showed it in the Alpha. And Herbert, another top 5 for Tristan. The debut of New German Performance in TC. Schwartz hangs on from another one. That was going to be interesting to see just what was going to happen with James Clay. So Clay gets a second. Clay did get a win at the opening round of COTA, so he's had nothing but podiums this year, and that's how you win championships. Then Grahovic, Bloom Federo, and the Nissan rounding out the top 5 in TC, and in TCA, it is Pombo getting the win over Gonzalez and Mejia with Bowman 4th, and Lang. Well, I'll tell you, I'm impressed with the young Mr. Lang, Luke Lang. And again, this is only his 2nd race in cars after a lot of experience in karting, but still, nice job.
Yeah, he wasn't far adrift, was it? It wasn't like he was a distant 4th. He had them in his sights. Be a fun one to watch as the season progresses.
I think so. So there is Johan. See that Seatbelt glove out the window?
Yeah, trademark of his. And I tell you, talk about podiums being enough for championships, but Toby Grahovic will argue with you on that one.
That's a very good point.
When you're up against Johann Schwartz, you need wins. So and I think James certainly aware of that. I think he would have definitely gone on the attack and thrown everything at him. We'd gotten back to green flag racing.
Adam Harding, who runs Hard Motorsports, has really, in a short amount of time, put together a pretty good program. And it's already paying off with some great runs here. There's a look at the results. We kind of ran through them already, but Maxon getting yet another win. Gonzalez, Smithson, Block, and Herbert. That's your top 5 in the touring car R category, TCR as it's called. Then Schwartz, Clay, Grahovic, Bloom, and Federo. In TC, that's the black numbers with the white background. And Mr. Capizzi, and then Capizzi Home Development's entry, just missing out on a top 5. Good to see Federo get back into the top 5, coming off of that breakthrough win that he put together at COTA in the Techsport Racing Bossman Brands Nissan.
Yeah, good to see a Nissan in mixing it up with the BMWs that tend to
Absolutely.
dominate this class at the moment. But as we saw at COTA, he can certainly make it happen.
And TCA, once again, Pombo, Gonzalez, Mejia, Mini, Hyundai, Mini. So you take a look, white numbers with the gray backgrounds there. Then Kevin Boehm in the Honda. And a great rebound after the issues yesterday. And it didn't help him that he was, in terms of where he had to start the race, back in the 5th spot. And he and Lang got into a good scrap for a while. But for Kevin to, they got that issue repaired with the fans. Now he knows what can happen here. We'll see what, because that car, I really think, you know, I look back in TCA, what in a very similar car a couple of years ago Tom O'Gorman did here, was very fast. And this isn't a track that tends to chew up the front tires quite as much as, say, a COTA. So I think Kevin, now that things are sorted, looking forward to this being a 3-event week, a 3-race event, as you said.
Yeah, there's it's great either way when you're having success and you're dominating a weekend like young Maxon is. Great to be able to continue to add to that points total. And if you're having a bad weekend, it's nice to have another day to come back with and try and rebound.
And looking back at some of the highlights, it was Victor Gonzalez on pole in that yellow and white Honda alongside the DXDT car from Scott Smithson, getting racy early, but it didn't take Tyler Maxon long in that Copeland Motorsports Hyundai to get right to the front. He did it with some pretty aggressive moves early like that.
Yeah, he had a little look there. That wasn't going to make it stick. And
Yep.
then somewhere up through the S's, he got the job done.
And then back in the TCA field, pole sitter in that one, Tyler Gonzalez for Copeland Motorsports as well in the Hyundai Veloster. Got the jump early, looked like he was going to drive away a little bit, but those minis came back after him. Then Steve Strymer, a little bit of an off, just giving somebody a little bit too much racing room essentially. And then for Ruben Iglesias having that off up in Oak Tree in the number 8 TC entry, and did make it back to the pits. And then this battle took off here.
Pombo finally made the move stick down at turn 3. Then Gonzalez has to protect, and that allows Pombo to romp off in the lead.
Which he started to do. And then this instant for Chandler Hull, working through the snake, having a little issue and getting hard into the barriers here. That brought out the full course yellow, and they couldn't get it all cleaned up satisfactorily in time. And so that was the checker flag as well. So that's how things unfolded in this 4th round of the championship here. And once again, we do have the opportunity to enjoy more of this class and category, which puts up some really fun racing, and that will be happening tomorrow. But we see the drivers and the podium finishers heading over to a unique podium in these times with the new protocols and the like, but Ryan Marine has been staffing it beautifully.
Thanks, Craig. It's a different look, that's for sure. Not a different look, though, is this guy, Tyler Maxon, back in victory lane once again. What a tremendous start to the season that you've had. Making that transition up from TCA, has it gone smoother than you imagined?
Oh yeah, it's definitely been an awesome transition. We've had a great start to the year. We're now 4 for 4 in the season, so yeah, we're ecstatic.
Now, as far as this race is concerned, it seemed like out-of-class traffic was a real challenge for all of the front runners. What was it like for you?
Yeah, it was a little bit frustrating sometimes. It's difficult to pass here, especially traffic, whenever you gotta catch them at some precarious positions. So this is definitely not the easiest place to get by traffic, but we made it work, and we were able to hold on to the lead.
1 year ago, you were the slower class Traffic. Does that help you, give you a little extra perspective, knowing what those guys are going through as you're making your way through them?
Yeah, for sure. Now knowing, kind of where they're going to place the car, where's an easy place for them to kind of move over a little bit and give me a little bit extra space, it can kind of help me judge where I can back up the corner a little bit and just maintenance the traffic a little bit better. So, yeah, it's definitely a help moving up from the class. You kind of know what's going on.
Oh, you heard it. 4 for 4 to start the season, going for 5 for 5 tomorrow. Good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah, boy, just an amazing start to the championship for a young man who's pretty impressive, isn't he?
He really is, and you got two ends of the spectrum in terms of their careers, with Gonzalez obviously giving him a bit of a hard time today. It wasn't as easy as I thought it was going to be, looking at the start of the race, and once he got the lead and took off a little bit, it sort of like came back to him. Traffic played a factor in there, as he alluded to, but he did a nice job, and he's just going to gain confidence and momentum as this season progresses, it looks like.
Yeah, and it's 4 races, 4 wins, and just great momentum, obviously. But one thing we know about Victor, he's not going to give it up. And we get to, I mean, Victor pulled off just a stunning win at Sonoma, which is the next round of the championships, on a track that is brutal on tires. And he figured out a way to deal with that to perfection. So season's certainly not done.
No, and he'll be happy to grab a few wins here and there. So he's going to lay it all on the line. Maybe not thinking about the big picture of the championship so much for Gonzalez, but just trying to get to victory lane once again.
Absolutely. Let's get back down to Ryan.
Well, Johann Schwartz is adding to his win total. Picked up another victory here today, Johann. We'll have you put the mask up for safety purposes. Congratulations on another race win. You didn't start on pole, though, so take us through the move that you made to take the lead and how you held on to it the rest of the way.
Yeah, I mean, VIR has a pretty good first or second, really doesn't matter. Sometimes you can kind of convince yourself that second is actually kind of at the pole if you're able to stay on the outside of the pole sitter, and I was able to do that. Chandler did a great job keeping it on the inside, and I was able to stay on the outside, and obviously then I have the advantage for the left-hander, and then we just ran laps. I managed to try to manage my gap. So had one situation where I ran into some traffic, and I didn't want to make an aggressive move on traffic and put myself in jeopardy for getting hit or something like that. So I had to hold back a little bit, and the group came up behind me. And we were fortunate enough, I'd saved the tires enough that I had enough to build up a lead again.
Well, a couple of wins to start the weekend. You'd think that would be a sign that the car is about as good as it can get. Is that the case, or is there more you can tune on it to try and get it more to your liking?
Well, that's interesting question. You always go to see if the car can get better. I already told the guys in the Brent Tedder, the crew chief, on what the car was doing throughout the run and what I would like to see for the next tomorrow. So there's always improvement. I always, as a driver, try to go for the perfect lap, and there's no such thing, but that's kind of what keeps me motivated. And I also want to thank Matt Chapers. He's been my car chief today. What a comfort he's given me throughout the whole weekend of being able to set it up, brand new to the team. And then obviously Adam from Hart Motorsport that's been able to put the whole thing together. Diamond Creek, Instrumart, PFC Brakes, they did it again. I'm so impressed by those guys and the technical help they support. So tickled to be here and tickled to win at VIR.
Good luck tomorrow.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I love that. Always go for the perfect lap. You never do it. That's the pursuit. But he points out something as you take a look here at the results now in the TC category. Really good racers, any racer should be, but really good racers are incredibly greedy.
Yeah, you always want a little bit more, and the competition's pushing too. It wasn't like he walked away from the rest of the field here today, so he knows that they're going to keep tweaking on their cars. Bimmer will know this racetrack well. They can maybe figure out what the evolution of the grip will be overnight and into tomorrow and make some changes in the right direction. So Johann's definitely on the charge once again. I think he's got the championship lead with his second victory of the weekend.
Yeah, and I think one of the big stories that's going to be followed now in this category is, will there be the repairs possible on Chandler's car? Do they have another car that he can run? Because that was a pretty solid hit.
It really was. Unfortunate there. I'm not sure exactly how it developed in terms of getting off course there, but either way, a lot of damage for the Bimmerworld team to do and get sorted out for tomorrow.
And, of course, there was a third category in this race, TCA. And, as always, they put on a show, too. Ryan?
They did indeed. Yesterday it was Tomas Mejia. Today his teammate Mark Pombo picks up the win. It looked like a great show, a great battle at the front of the TCA field. What did it look like from where you were sitting?
It was a crazy race. To be honest, I'm glad it ended a little early. The series SRO has done a good job at trying to introduce new cars and get the homologation right so all the cars are competitive. But our cars got a little advantage on those Hondais through the tight corners. The Minis are just awesome. The JCWs are unstoppable through the infield. But on the straights, we are a little disadvantaged. So I was afraid with 1 lap to go, they may just motor by me to the start-finish line. But sort of glad it ended. But the start of the race, I just tried to be patient. My teammate pressured him. I stayed close, kept the engine cool, and took their tires. And turns out I passed them at the right time with that yellow flag. So it was a great result for Mini. We just keep standing on the top step with good strategy and good racecraft. So got to say thanks to the Mini JCW team, SRO, for having a series that has such close competition with cool cars. And just looking forward to tomorrow, man.
Thanks so much.
Yep.
Well, one of the things is those Minis, they've been racing a while. They are incredibly well sorted by the LAP team. There's no question about that.
They are, and I think to his point, I mean, he didn't mention it, but he had that little bobble there going through Oak Tree, and right as the yellow came out, Gonzalez had the run going. So either then or on a restart, he was vulnerable.
Yeah, absolutely. There you see Kevin Boehm with the resurgence after the issues yesterday, getting back up and almost into the top 3, a couple of seconds off that. And then Luke Lang rounding out the top 5. Joey Esma, PJ Gronke, Forbush, Newcomb, and Bettenhausen completing the top 10. So that wraps up TC America round 4. They race again tomorrow. And for all of you, we want to see you right back here at 1:30 Eastern Time for GT World Challenge.